As we come on air, we have serious news of a major possible air crash in the United States. A plane appears to have crashed into one of New York's tallest buildings, the World Trade Center. As you can see, those are pictures of smoke pouring out of a gaping hole in the upper floors of the World Trade Center. It is in the downtown area of Manhattan and is one of the most heavily populated office buildings in New York. All we know at this moment is that there has been a plane crash in the morning time in New York. The plane smashed into one of the twin towers of the New York World Trade Center about half an hour ago. That's the information that we've got. And you can see the smoke and flames billowing from the building. One eyewitness said that it was a twin-engine plane, possibly a 737, which flew straight into the World Trade Center. It's believed that some bits of the plane may still be embedded in the building. For viewers who are just joining us at the top of the hour, we're watching pictures of smoke billowing out of the World Trade Center in New York, the result of a plane crash, it's believed, which took place about half an hour ago.
September 11th, 2001 started off just like any other day. I had the afternoon shift at BBC World. I was on air from 12 to 4, and I think it was at about 1:45 in the afternoon. I was between bulletins. I was sitting there having a sandwich, my lunch, when the news editor, Buzz, came running across the newsroom, and he said to me, "Nisha, just get on the set now." So I picked up my stuff and started running and calling out to him, "Buzz, so what is it?" He said, "One of the twin towers at the World Trade Center is on fire." That's all I knew. And we went on air saying that. There was a point when the second plane went into the second of the twin towers, when I had this sickening realization that this wasn't an accident, which is what we were thinking until that point. And I simultaneously had to process my reactions as a human being, which were reactions of horror and empathy and fear and disgust. At the same time, I was, after all, a BBC news anchor telling the world what was going on, and I had to stay calm and controlled and composed. Now, it's very easy to fill acres of television with speculation. It's very hard if you have to rely on the facts, and the BBC tradition is to avoid speculation and to only give out facts, what is known. And we knew very little. So it was actually terrifying for me professionally, because I had to hold this together, and yet I knew very little. So I had these human responses, which were, really feeling rather wretched. And at the same time, I had to do my professional job. It was the most difficult thing I think I've ever done in 25 years of working for the BBC.
Joining us now on the phone from New York is Steve Evans, who was, I believe, in the building at the time. Steve, what can you tell us about what happened this morning?
People are running away very, very quickly. There are more explosions further down the building. It was calm until we came on the air now, but I'm now looking up at this building, and there is smoke billowing from the very top, but then there is a fire and an explosion about 20 stories further down. I was at the base of the building when it happened. There was one huge bang, and the building physically shook. Then another 2 or 3 bangs, and the building again shook, and people came screaming past me.
At the moment, it looks as if both buildings are on fire.
Clearly, the thing is out of control. As I say, there is smoke billowing out from further and further down the building, and people are simply moving back. They don't know what has happened. Initially, the assumption was that it was a bomb. People have been coming past me now saying, no, it was an aircraft. which hit the building. More than that, I cannot say, apart from to tell you that people here are very, very frightened. People are crying. People are shaking. They've stopped running away from the building. They are now walking away. There is moisture raining down from a clear sky. I only presume that comes from the disaster which is going on above me as I speak.
Well, I just got off the train right in the belly at the World Trade Center, the train that was getting me in from home this morning. And first, there was just a tremendous smell of gasoline and petroleum. But we just figured that was a sort of a train situation. So we were making ourselves up rather calmly on those large escalators. And suddenly there was a sort of a panic run by the rest of the commuters. And then there was a huge explosion. And as we sort of rushed out of the building, we saw what looked like a ticker tape parade. Papers and streamers flowing everywhere. It just looked so surreal. But then the sheer fear and, I guess, the panic of the situation, but most of us just ran to side corridors and stuff like that outside on the street. And then moments later, there was another explosion. So all we could see was a tremendous pall of smoke and certainly fire under that smoke in one of the towers of the building. But I got the impression that as I kept running towards my office, more and more people were saying that the second tower had caught on fire as well. I had no idea as to the planes and so on and so forth. We just thought it was some sort of an explosion or a regular fire. But then again, all of downtown looks like a whole mass of people on the street, trucks, cars.
And we've got another eyewitness to that accident or explosion at the World Trade Center. Jane Beresford joins us now. Jane, what can you tell us?
I was standing down on the Battery Park ferry terminal, just waiting to catch a ferry actually across to Ellis Island, and just heard a huge explosion. It's about 8:30 behind me. I thought perhaps a building was being demolished, but in fact, you saw there were just towers of smoke coming out within minutes. And again, we still thought it was just a building demolished. There wasn't any great sort of panic at that time. And then you saw flames raging through the building, and then approximately sort of 15, 20 minutes later, a plane flew down right above us, so very, very close to our heads, and smashed right into the other tower. It's a massive explosion, people were screaming and sort of panic. There wasn't even many fire ambulances and things like that on the street. It all happened so quickly.
And the emergency services response now?
They are on scene now, but people just seemed to be stunned. There seemed to be nothing happened while this sort of first explosion had happened, and there was sort of this sort of silence and nothing very. And then all of a sudden, all the ambulances and fire engines came down onto the streets, and the most shocking thing was this plane just coming, literally right above our heads and just smashed right into the second building. It's like something out of a film. You just couldn't believe what was happening.
You actually saw the plane going into the side of the building?
Smashed into the side of the building. I mean, you thought it was going to swerve to the left or the right to try and avoid it. It was so low, you knew it was on a collision course with the building, but it just seemed to be heading right for it.
Of course, at the moment, it's too early to tell what was behind it, but so far as you could make out, did it look like an accident?
No. It looked like it was. I mean, you just don't get planes. It was quite a large plane. It didn't look. It was low down in the sky in Manhattan. You're not used to seeing planes that low in the sky in Manhattan, and it just was heading straight for the tower. Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Smashed into the side of the building. I mean, you thought it was going to swerve to the left or the right to try and avoid it. It was so low, you knew it was on a collision course with the building, but it just seemed to be heading right for it.
Of course, at the moment, it's too early to tell what was behind it, but so far as you could make out, did it look like an accident?
No. It looked like it was. I mean, you just don't get planes. It was quite a large plane. It didn't look. It was low down in the sky in Manhattan. You're not used to seeing planes that low in the sky in Manhattan, and it just was heading straight for the tower.